When I think of football in the 1990s, I think of plays like this one.
Completes the pass to Jerry Rice, just as you said, Marlon.
And I think of games like this one. That's right, Tecmo Super Bowl on the good old NES. You know, there's a generation of guys out there right about my age who grew up with this game. And even though it might look kind of like an arcade game on the surface, there's actually quite a bit of depth to it. So let's spend some time digging in. Well, somebody on Reddit once said that this was one of the greatest NES games ever. You know, I thought that was kind of an odd sentiment, but then I started to look into it. And, you know, they do have a point. I mean, this is as deep as the best statistical-based football sim, at least that I know about. It gives you a lot of play calling options, a lot of personnel options, and it's also a really, really simple game. And if you play it multiplayer, it really is a ton of fun. So let's look at some of the details together and you can decide for yourself. The story behind this classic is pretty simple. Tecmo first created Tecmo Bowl for the NES back in 1989. That game only had 12 teams and a small roster. This was due to licensing issues. More specifically, the issue is that the NFL had given an exclusive license to LJN for its NFL football game. Like most other LJN NES games, NFL on the NES is awful. You don't want to play it. Skip it, go straight for Tecmo Super Bowl. Now, we know that Tecmo Super Bowl was out by early December 1991 since it's mentioned in the Christmas shopping articles. Most of these advertisements started popping up around December 8th. Now, this was basically the heyday of the NES. The system was at its all-time peak. Now, the interesting thing that most of you video game historians already know is that the Super Nintendo came out that Christmas. All of the early adopters in tech were buying that. But for those of us who were stuck with the NES, Tecmo Super Bowl was the big hit. The game had all 28 NFL teams with large rosters. You could customize the team rosters. Teams had playbooks with 8 plays in total, 4 running and 4 passing. And even the playbooks were customizable, sort of, that is. You could choose from about 5 different plays for each slot. Now, one of the reasons why this game was so popular and remains popular today is its play calling system. It's ingenious because it makes 2-player play completely fair. You choose a play by pushing one of the 4 directions on the control pad and then either A or B. If you push A, it chooses one of the 4 running plays, and if you choose B, it's one of the 4 passing plays. Similarly, the defense uses the same playbook to choose a play to defend. It's like you're guessing which play is going to come. If you guess right, the defense will completely blow up the play. Well, usually, a good quarterback can still complete a pass over the secondary. And if you guess wrong, sometimes you can blow up the play anyway. It gives you a little bit of strategy, though it's not overwhelming. The fact that there are only 8 plays that you can choose from means that you'll get used to them pretty quickly as the game goes on. You won't be sitting around wondering what you're supposed to do. But the fact that you can choose from 8 different plays also means that you can choose strategically to try to throw your opponent off. It works really well. As far as the game itself is concerned, there are all sorts of cool details. Seeing guys bumping off each other and being thrown down is actually a lot of fun. If you run with the ball, you can follow your blockers and find the hole. Or if you don't want to do that, you can run against the play and see what happens. It really feels like a game of football, and you find yourself caring about blocking schemes and stuff like that, which is pretty good for an 8-bit video game. Of course, there are a couple of problems. When I picked this game up the other day, it had been at least 25 years since I had last played it. It didn't take me long to remember the old tricks, though. On defense, I loved playing as the nose tackle. It's really easy to sneak past the center and get a quick sack. In fact, you can do this over and over again, holding the other team to negative yardage. And on offense, even the worst teams can exploit non-existent backfields. Also, I decided to give myself a challenge. Though this game came out in December 1991, it's actually based on the 1990 NFL season stats. Now, the New England Patriots were easily the worst team in the NFL in 1990, going an awful 1-15. Quarterback Steve Grogan only lasted 2 games before injuries severely limited his playing time. Backup quarterback Mark Wilson was simply awful. At the same time, there were all sorts of crazy locker room scandals. Famously, the Patriots managed to go down 9-0 to the Redskins in Week 15 before the Redskins ran a single offensive play. There was a fumble that Washington returned for a touchdown and then a safety on a bad snap. You know, when I was a kid, I used to play this game with the San Francisco 49ers and could easily go undefeated, so I gave the Patriots a shot. And, well, it was still way too easy. See, the computer doesn't really know how to call plays. It's also beaten way too easily when you're on offense. And the nose guard trick is pretty overpowered. I won the first game of the season 30-0 and dominated all the stats. Well, maybe the game is more of an arcade game than an actual simulation. Maybe until you get to what the community has done with the game. There's a robust and somewhat large Tecmo Super Bowl modding community out there. They do yearly releases of the game to create current rosters. They've also created a number of versions that fix a lot of the bugs with the game and make the game more of a challenge. And there are also historical versions of the game that look like a lot of fun. So I grabbed one of them the other day. I got the 1978 season, and let me tell you, this was a ton of fun. I chose the Steelers. We played against Buffalo in the first game of the season. Now, the Steelers really did play the Bills to open up the 1978 season, and the Steelers completely crushed them. The Tecmo Super Bowl version, however, was a little bit different. Suddenly, the computer could pass over my defense and I couldn't stop it. And I had to be a little bit more careful with my play calling. We did win in the end, but it was a close game. Meanwhile, the uniforms looked great. All the player names were there. It was an absolutely superb experience. I could see myself actually trying to complete a project with this game. This was a lot of fun, and that's the thing. When you get the right challenge, Tecmo Super Bowl is actually a really good game engine. Oh, there's also this one, the Gold Edition. This is basically a collection of the all-time greatest players for each franchise. Now, I could probably spend hours just going through the names on these rosters. And it's a difficult game as well. Well, it's sort of difficult. I had the Redskins beat the Giants by a pretty large margin. But of course, the most important thing is that it's a lot of fun, and I'm telling you, this modding community really impresses me. Tecmo Super Bowl might not be the best football game of all time, but I would argue that it certainly is up there. While most Madden games get thrown out when the new one comes out, this one has really stood the test of time. I had a blast playing it again and am going to seriously start in on a project using one of these retro seasons. Anyway, look for more Tecmo Super Bowl content here in the future, and I haven't forgotten about the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis versions of the game either. We'll go through all of those one by one, but first of all, I'm going to start a project with one of these NES versions. I haven't had this much fun in decades.